Keeping Up Appearances, 1990 to 1995, remains one of Britain's most iconic sitcoms, thanks to its sharp wit, unforgettable characters, and the legendary performance of Patricia Routledge as the ever-social climbing Hyacinth Bucket. "It's Bouquet," she'd remind us. But while the show brought laughter and joy to millions around the world, the real lives of its cast members were often marked by tragedy, hardship, and heartbreak. Several beloved actors from the series have since passed away, some quietly, others under shocking or painful circumstances that fans rarely hear about. In this special look behind the curtain, we uncover the untold stories, final days, personal battles, and hidden sorrows of the stars who once made audiences laugh, but whose real-life endings were anything but cheerful. Geoffrey Hughes, born on February 2, 1944, took on the role of Onslow in Keeping Up Appearances in 1990 at the age of 46. Onslow, lazy, unkempt, perpetually clad in a dirty vest and surrounded by beer cans, was the embodiment of everything Hyacinth Bucket pretended not to be. But beneath the slacker exterior, Hughes gave Onslow surprising depth, intelligent, unbothered by class obsession, and wickedly observant. Audiences adored him, yet few knew how different the actor's real life was, and how much darkness it held. Born in a post-war working-class family in Wallasey, Hughes grew up in a cramped council house, the son of a factory laborer. He was bullied for his weight and thick northern accent, often mocked in school as slow due to his dyslexia, something he never publicly acknowledged but which friends later confirmed plagued his youth. After struggling to break into theater, he was frequently typecast as the oafish bloke, a label that frustrated him deeply. His role on Coronation Street ended in bitter tension with producers after Hughes reportedly criticized the show's decline in writing quality. Though never part of public scandal, he was known among colleagues as gruff and moody, especially when directors pushed him to play caricature over character. A serious fallout with a co-star on Heartbeat nearly ended his career prematurely, and though he quietly retreated to the Isle of Wight, industry insiders said it was more exile than retirement. His greatest professional heartbreak was being rejected from a film adaptation of Keeping Up Appearances, a project that collapsed, but the snub stung for years. His personal life was equally stormy. His long-term relationship ended abruptly in the early 2000s amid whispered allegations of emotional volatility and possessiveness. While he found solace in nature and built an eco-home, he quietly battled depression following a cancer diagnosis in 1999. He succumbed to prostate cancer on July 27, 2012, at age 68 at his home. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at £1.5 million, largely from consistent TV work and frugal living. Clive Swift, born on February 9, 1936, first appeared as Richard Bucket in Keeping Up Appearances in 1990 at the age of 54. As Hyacinth's weary husband, Richard was a silent sufferer in a world of forced luxury and delusion. His dry sarcasm, visible eye rolls, and strategic retreats to paperwork or pipe smoking made him the ideal comic foil to Hyacinth's social climbing madness. But off-screen, Clive Swift was neither submissive nor quiet. He was notoriously cantankerous. Raised in Liverpool in an upper-middle-class family, Swift had a privileged yet emotionally cold upbringing. His father, a prosperous salesman, was distant, and Swift later revealed that affection was foreign in his household. He attended Clifton College and later Oxford, where he studied English before falling into acting, but not without resistance from his family, who saw performance as beneath them. His career, though impressive, ranging from the Royal Shakespeare Company to roles in Doctor Who and Excalibur, was marked by simmering resentment toward the TV industry. He reportedly loathed being typecast as Richard Bucket, which he saw as lightweight fluff, and in later interviews, he snapped at fans who dared to call him Richard. His biggest professional humiliation came when BBC cast another actor for a major Shakespeare adaptation he'd long campaigned for. Despite his credentials, Swift could be difficult to work with. Fellow actors described him as superior, abrasive, and not shy about calling a script garbage. His marriage to acclaimed novelist Margaret Drabble was filled with intellectual competition and tension, eventually ending in divorce in 1975. Their three children had varying relationships with him. One described him as brilliant but emotionally closed. Swift's final years were spent in partial isolation, retreating into writing poetry and music, rarely seen in public except for a few interviews that further solidified his image as prickly. He died on February 1st, 2019, just 8 days before his 83rd birthday, reportedly from complications related to an unspecified illness. He died in London and left behind a net worth of approximately £2 million, accumulated from decades of acting and real estate investments. Josephine Tusen, born on February 26, 1931, brought Elizabeth Warden to life in Keeping Up Appearances starting in 1990 at age 59. Elizabeth, the twitchy neighbor who couldn't hold a teacup without spilling it, was the quiet mirror of every British viewer who has ever tried too hard to be polite. She was Hyacinth's reluctant friend, tiptoeing through absurd social traps with a trembling smile. Born in Hampstead, London, to a professional violinist and a nurse, Josephine's childhood was marked by silence and constraint. Her father died when she was young, and her mother, strict and emotionally distant, pushed her toward music and decorum, forbidding laughter at the dinner table. Josephine studied at RADA, where she was often dismissed as too quiet to lead and relegated to ensemble roles. Her early career was an uphill battle through minor parts in sketch shows and B-list plays, with many casting directors telling her she blended in too well. While Keeping Up Appearances brought her acclaim, it also boxed her into a specific comedic mold she struggled to break free from. In the 2000s, she faced the humiliation of multiple failed auditions for dramatic roles, one of which she lost to a far younger, less experienced actress due to lack of star power. Despite a seemingly spotless public image, Tusen harbored deep insecurity and admitted in a rare interview that she often drank alone during her touring years. Her first marriage to actor Leonard Rossiter ended after only 3 years, reportedly due to his explosive temper and infidelity. She never remarried, though she had several quiet affairs, including one with a married director that ended in heartbreak. Tusen battled chronic health issues in her later years, including osteoarthritis and severe hearing loss, which she concealed from the public until shortly before her death. She passed away peacefully on August 18, 2022, at the age of 91, in a London retirement home. At the time of her death, her net worth was under £1 million, consisting mostly of modest savings, royalties, and a small London flat she'd owned since the 70s. Gerald Sim, born on June 4, 1925, played the jittery, soft-spoken vicar in Keeping Up Appearances in 1990 at age 65. His character, timid, flustered, and frequently flung into social mayhem by the insufferable Hyacinth Bucket, became a beloved figure for viewers who saw in him the tragic comedy of being too polite in the face of madness. Raised in a strictly religious household in Liverpool, Gerald grew up under the oppressive thumb of a father who was a clergyman himself. Cold, domineering, and emotionally unreachable. He was frequently mocked in school for his stammer and frailty, leading to a lifelong fear of confrontation and a compulsive need to please. Though Sim appeared in over 100 films and series, he was constantly typecast as vicars, judges, and bureaucrats, roles he grew to despise. One director described him as painfully accommodating, almost to a fault. But behind the scenes, Gerald harbored a simmering bitterness toward the industry that never gave him the spotlight. In the 1970s, he was quietly replaced on a major BBC drama after rumors circulated that he was uncooperative and passive-aggressive, a passive rebellion that manifested through subtle sabotage, missing cues, slurring lines, or giving flat performances when he felt disrespected. Though no public scandal ever emerged, insiders knew of his deep resentment toward his famous brother-in-law, Richard Attenborough, whose career soared while Gerald remained in bit parts. They hadn't spoken for years by the time Sim moved into Denville Hall, the retirement home for entertainers. There, he reportedly became reclusive, refusing visitors and growing paranoid about financial exploitation. He never married, and there were long-standing rumors of a secret engagement that collapsed in the 1950s after he was caught in a compromising situation with a male colleague. Something never proven, but which haunted him in an era of tabloid moralism. Sim died on December 11, 2014, at the age of 89 in London. The cause of death was not widely reported, though records indicate prolonged illness and dementia. At the time of his death, his estate was estimated at under £1 million, consisting of modest savings, actor pension benefits, and a few family heirlooms. Charmian May, born June 16, 1937, in Pembroke, Hampshire, debuted in Keeping Up Appearances in 1990 at the age of 53 as the condescending counselor Mrs. Nugent, a woman whose social snobbery perfectly mirrored and mocked Hyacinth Bucket's delusions of grandeur. May's dignified air on screen belied a life steeped in contradiction and repressed ambition. Born to a conservative military family, she was denied formal drama training until her late 20s. Her father deemed acting vulgar. She taught elocution for years before finally breaking into theater. Though colleagues noted that even at her peak, she was too posh for gritty roles and too cold for romantic ones. This positioning left her typecast for decades, a frustration she never publicly voiced, but privately brooded over. Despite appearances, Charmian was not as genteel as she seemed. She was known to drink excessively at rap parties, once reportedly falling down a staircase at a West End cast celebration in 1994. Her greatest disappointment came during the filming of Bridget Jones's Diary. Though cast in a prominent supporting role, most of her scenes were cut, and her name was nearly dropped from the final credits. Rumors of her being difficult on set circulated, though co-stars remained mum. She never married, and those close to her believe she struggled with unacknowledged romantic regrets, including a long-rumored affair with a married playwright during the 1970s. In the late 90s, Charmian was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. She quietly withdrew from public life and refused press interviews, insisting no photos be taken of her during treatment. She died on October 24, 2002, at age 65, in Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire. Her estate was modest, reportedly under £1 million, and included a modest flat, stage memorabilia, and theater royalties. Forgotten by many younger audiences, her passing stirred few headlines. But among industry insiders, she remains a symbol of unfulfilled brilliance, a woman trapped between tradition and talent, whose final years were a retreat into silence. Shirley Stellox, born April 11, 1941, in Dukinfield, Cheshire, first portrayed Rose in Keeping Up Appearances in 1990, making her 49 at the time. Her version of Rose was raw and brazen, drenched in bold lipstick, cheap perfume, and unapologetic sexual energy that scandalized the show's more conservative viewers. Yet what few fans knew was how much of that audacity came from Shirley's own life. Raised in a rigid Methodist household, she rebelled early, dropping out of school to join a traveling theater company and earning money under the table to survive. Her early years were marked by hardship and tabloid-worthy scandal, including a secret abortion at age 17 that she later described as emotionally devastating. Though she worked steadily, Shirley's reputation among casting agents was mixed. She was known for being fiercely opinionated and was said to have verbally lashed out at directors who tried to tone her down. She was once removed from a major BBC drama mid-shoot for being impossible to direct, according to leaked memos. In the 1980s, she shocked British audiences with roles as prostitutes in Personal Services in 1984, sparking outrage from conservative groups. But the controversy only fueled her cult following. Her personal life, however, was quietly unraveling. Her marriage to actor Don Henderson was riddled with tension. He resented her growing fame while battling throat cancer, which eventually claimed his life in 1997. After his death, Shirley became increasingly reclusive, relying heavily on antidepressants and reportedly developing a hoarding issue in her final years. She was diagnosed with cancer in late 2015 and died just weeks later on December 7, 2015, at age 74 in Yorkshire. Despite her prolific career, she left behind a surprisingly modest estate estimated between £1 and £2 million. Her last will included significant donations to mental health charities. A rare, unpublicized admission of the struggles that had long haunted her. Though often remembered for her fiery characters, Shirley's real life was far more shadowed, marked by grief, grit, and an unapologetic refusal to play by anyone's rules. Nigel Davenport, born May 23, 1928, appeared in Keeping Up Appearances in 1993 as the Commodore, a commanding, refined gentleman whose brief interaction with Hyacinth Bucket symbolized her desperate longing for validation from Britain's upper class. He was 65 at the time, already a household name in British film and television. On screen, Davenport exuded control, intellect, and old-school masculinity. But beneath the polished image was a man at war with the industry and often with himself. Raised in Cambridge in a conservative household, Nigel rebelled early, falling into acting after being expelled from Trinity College for an alcohol-related incident that was covered up by family connections. His career thrived, with standout roles in A Man for All Seasons and Chariots of Fire. Yet behind his success was a well-known reputation for arrogance and on-set volatility. Co-stars from the 1970s recalled Davenport berating crew members, demanding rewrites, and once refusing to shoot a scene unless given script approval. His presidency of Equity was marked by controversy as he clashed with unions and accused BBC executives of elitist censorship, a stance that made headlines but left him professionally isolated. His most notorious professional failure came in the late 1980s when he walked off a high-budget miniseries, triggering a lawsuit that quietly settled out of court and cost him a small fortune. His personal life was equally turbulent. Though married to actress Maria Aitken for years, the marriage was marred by infidelities and long absences. His son, Jack Davenport, rarely spoke of him in early interviews, reportedly estranged for years due to Nigel's controlling behavior and emotional distance. In later life, he suffered from declining health and periods of depression, withdrawing from public life and rejecting several tribute offers. Nigel Davenport died of pneumonia on October 25, 2013, at the age of 85. His estate, valued at just over £500,000, included a crumbling country house, residuals from past films, and a dwindling pension fund. Jean Anderson, born December 12, 1907, played Mrs. Fortescue in Keeping Up Appearances in 1991 at the age of 83. Her role, though brief, was unforgettable, a poised, aristocratic woman whose very presence sent Hyacinth Bucket into hyperactive hysteria. Mrs. Fortescue represented everything Hyacinth aspired to: old money, social refinement, unshakable elegance. And Jean's regal bearing made the performance chillingly believable. Born into a failing Edwardian household in Eastbourne, Jean was raised by a mother who resented her and a father who lost the family fortune in a gambling scandal hushed by distant relatives. Sent to boarding school at 6, she spent much of her youth in emotional exile, writing poetry about abandonment that wouldn't surface until after her death. Her acting career spanned stage and screen, but she often lost major roles to more commercial actresses. Bitterly labeled as too icy by BBC casting directors in the 1960s, she was notoriously difficult to work with, once slapping a co-star on the set of The Brothers during a dispute over billing. Her greatest professional failure came in 1979, when she was attached to a West End revival of Long Day's Journey into Night, only to be replaced just days before the premiere due to creative disagreements, a euphemism for an alleged backstage meltdown involving a bottle of gin and a shredded script. In private, she never married and was rumored to have carried on a secret affair with a married director during the 1950s, which ended in scandal after a cryptic letter was intercepted by his wife. Friends described her as cold, sharp-tongued, and pathologically private. Her later years were marked by depression, hearing loss, and the slow withdrawal from an industry that once applauded her, but ultimately discarded her. Jean Anderson died alone in Cumbria on April 1, 2001, from natural causes at the age of 93. Her will revealed a solitary life. No heirs, no charitable donations, only a modest property, a vintage wardrobe, and personal diaries locked in a trunk. Her net worth was estimated under £1 million. Bruce Montague, born on March 24, 1939, played his lordship in Keeping Up Appearances in 1995, at the age of 56. His character, a poised, genteel aristocrat, was a rare beacon of validation for Hyacinth Bucket's relentless class-climbing fantasies. Distant, elusive, and yet intoxicatingly elegant. But while his lordship floated above the sitcom's chaos, Montague's real life was far murkier. Behind the curtain of West End charm and gentlemanly grace lay decades of personal dissatisfaction, strained relationships, and hidden insecurities. Raised in a strict, emotionally repressed household, Montague often spoke cryptically of a lonely childhood in Kent, where discipline was prized above affection and where he first learned to bury his emotional life beneath performance. Although he amassed over 300 screen and stage credits, his early career was riddled with rejection and humiliation, including being fired from a touring production for inappropriate conduct, a charge never explained but whispered about in industry circles. He harbored a fierce resentment toward the television establishment, once calling the BBC a club for the terminally mediocre after being passed over for a lead role in Butterflies. He also had a sharp tongue in private. Former colleagues described him as manipulative, even cruel, particularly toward younger actors. The largest collapse of his career came in the early 2000s, when a self-funded one-man stage show about Oscar Wilde, his passion project, was panned and folded after 3 nights, leaving him financially devastated. His long marriage to actress, the death of close friends, and a diagnosis of cancer in the 2010s pushed Montague further into isolation. He died on August 16, 2022, at the age of 83 in Hove, East Sussex. Though officially valued between £4 to £5 million, thanks to property holdings, rights from past productions, and a shrewd investment in theater real estate, his will reportedly included a final, handwritten addendum disinheriting 2 former protégés, calling them leeches. His death was barely covered by major outlets, leaving a legacy as enigmatic and sharply divided as the man himself. Gretchen Franklin, born July 7, 1911, portrayed Daddy's eccentric fiancée in Keeping Up Appearances in 1990, when she was already 79, appearing for a fleeting but scene-stealing moment of chaos in Hyacinth Bucket's carefully controlled world. Her brief role injected absurdity and unpredictability, traits that often mirrored the stormy chapters of her real life. Franklin, best known as Ethel Skinner from EastEnders, had a career spanning more than 7 decades. But behind the music hall charm and grandmotherly smiles lay an existence riddled with quiet tragedies, cutthroat rivalries, and personal sacrifice. Born in Covent Garden into a theatrical family, she was pushed into showbiz at a young age, becoming a tiller girl before even turning 18. Her marriage to writer John Caswell Garth ended abruptly in 1953, when he died suddenly, and she never remarried, a choice some said was out of grief, others out of stubbornness. Behind her sweet exterior, Gretchen was fiercely protective of her legacy, going so far as to threaten legal action against BBC producers in 1988 over rumored plot lines she felt insulted Ethel's character. Despite her image as a national treasure, colleagues remembered her as sharp-tongued and unrelenting, especially in later years. Rumors swirled in the 1970s about a decades-long feud with fellow actress Pat Coombs, stemming from a West End role Franklin allegedly stole by spreading unverified gossip about Coombs' drinking. She denied it, but the damage stuck. Though she had no children, Gretchen maintained close ties with several charities, most notably animal welfare groups, and secretly donated the bulk of her EastEnders residuals to them. In private, she struggled with chronic arthritis, depression, and anxiety that worsened after losing close friends like Anna Wing. She died on July 11, 2005, just 4 days after her 94th birthday, in a North London care home. Though her estate was modest, estimated under £500,000 due to her generous philanthropy, she left behind valuable handwritten diaries that BBC archivists later acquired. Jean Mockford, born on March 15, 1926, portrayed the eccentric Mrs. East in Keeping Up Appearances in 1990 at the age of 64, a small but memorable character that mirrored Mockford's own offbeat comedic style. Audiences adored her quirky unpredictability, but few knew the shadowed reality behind her affable screen presence. Born into a working-class household in war-torn Lewisham, Mockford's childhood was punctuated by loss and instability. Her father killed in the Blitz, and her mother institutionalized for mental illness. Forced to raise her younger brother alone as a teenager, Mockford learned early to mask grief with humor. Her acting career took decades to launch, during which she worked as a secretary, cleaner, and even briefly as a club hostess, a period she later referred to as her years in the wilderness. Though best known for her cult role in Up Pompeii, Mockford's career was stunted by typecasting, and she harbored a quiet fury about being boxed into caricature roles. She once physically assaulted a director in 1973, after being told she was too old and too ugly for a part, an incident hushed by her agent, but known in industry gossip. Mockford never married and was rumored to have had a long, painful affair with a closeted BBC producer that ended in scandal and professional exile. Estranged from family and plagued by financial instability, she spent her final years at Denville Hall, a retirement home for actors, where she was often heard screaming late at night, convinced she was being erased from the industry. Suffering from dementia and unable to recognize her own image on reruns of her work, she died on November 16, 2018, at the age of 92. Her net worth was estimated at under £500,000, primarily consisting of minor royalties and a small pension. Her estate included only a few cherished mementos, old scripts, photos, and a note that read, "I was funnier than they ever let me be." Mary Miller, born July 26, 1936, in Doncaster, England, portrayed the unforgettable Rose in Keeping Up Appearances, starting in 1991 at the age of 55. Her version of Rose, Hyacinth Bucket's man-hungry, emotionally volatile sister, was campy, theatrical, and brimming with reckless romantic abandon. Audiences loved her melodramatic entrances and over-the-top declarations of love, a perfect foil to Hyacinth's suffocating sense of propriety. But off-screen, Mary's life was more restrained, marked by a turbulent early history and quiet heartbreak. She grew up in post-war austerity, the daughter of a struggling musician father who was emotionally absent and often alcoholic. Her childhood was marred by instability, with long periods of poverty and frequent ridicule for her ambition to perform. She concealed deep emotional scars, often overcompensating with what colleagues described as a relentless politeness that bordered on defensive. Although she gained acclaim on the West End stage, originating the role of Madame Giry in The Phantom of the Opera, her career was haunted by missed opportunities and frequent dismissals. She was dropped from multiple productions in the 1980s due to creative differences, though insiders whispered that Mary was intensely controlling over her scenes and refused to collaborate on rewrites. Her biggest professional embarrassment came during a disastrous run in a regional production of Sweet Charity, which critics called emotionally vacant and vocally strained. In private, Mary's marriage was said to be more spiritual than romantic. She and her husband lived largely separate lives in their later years, bound more by faith than affection. Friends revealed that she was quietly estranged from her only child, who moved abroad in the 1990s and rarely visited. She was diagnosed with advanced ovarian cancer in 1997 and kept it secret until weeks before her death, refusing chemotherapy in her final months. She died on November 10, 1998, in London at the age of 62. Her net worth at the time of death was estimated around £1 million, mainly from television royalties and theater contracts. Thank you for watching as we reflected on the lives and legacies of the actors from Keeping Up Appearances who are no longer with us. Their humor, charm, and unforgettable performances brought joy to millions and helped shape the show into a classic. While their journeys ended far too soon, their impact lives on through every scene, every laugh, and every memory they've left behind. As we honor their lives, we're reminded of how deeply television can touch our hearts. Join us next time as we look back at more stars who left us too soon, but whose stories continue to shine.